One weapon on this list killed more people in a single moment than entire armies did in months of fighting. Another was so feared that soldiers gave it a nickname that still sends chills, from standard issue rifles carried by millions to the device that ended the war in a blinding flash. These are the 30 deadliest weapons of World War II, ranked from least to most lethal. Fairbairn Sykes fighting knife, close-quarters combat dagger for British commandos and special operations. This double-edged stiletto was built for one thing: silent killing. Designed by two former Shanghai police officers who survived hundreds of street fights, it became the symbol of British commando units. Every single use was personal, and every single use was fatal. Luger P08, German semi-automatic officer's pistol, and the most sought-after war trophy of the conflict. The Luger was iconic, not because of its lethality, but because of its mystique. Its toggle lock action was elegant but sensitive to dirt. Allied troops would risk their lives to capture one as a souvenir. As a killing tool, it was adequate. As a symbol of the enemy, it was unmatched. M1911A1 pistol standard issue American sidearm carried by officers, tank crews, and pilots. Chambered in .45 ACP, the M1911 hit hard at close range. It wasn't a battlefield-dominating weapon, but in hallways, trenches, cockpits, and desperate last stands, it ended fights with a single round. It had already proven itself in one world war. It proved itself again in the second. M1 carbine lightweight semi-automatic carbine for support troops, paratroopers, and vehicle crews. Over 6 million were produced, the most manufactured American small arm of the war. It lacked the stopping power of a full battle rifle, but it made sure that every American soldier, from cooks to radio men, carried something more lethal than a pistol. Karabiner 98K standard issue bolt-action rifle for the German Wehrmacht. Based on the legendary Mauser action, the Kar 98K was accurate, powerful, and reliable. It served everywhere German soldiers fought, but it had one fatal disadvantage. It was a bolt-action rifle in a war rapidly moving towards semi-automatic firepower. Lee Enfield No. 4, standard issue bolt-action rifle for British and Commonwealth forces. Its 10-round magazine gave trained soldiers a rate of fire so fast that Germans sometimes mistook it for machine gun fire. The Mad Minute drill could put 30 aimed rounds downrange in 60 seconds, old-fashioned and devastatingly effective. Mosin Nagant M91-30 standard issue Soviet bolt-action rifle, produced in staggering numbers. Over 17 million were built during the war alone. In the hands of Soviet snipers like Lyudmila Pavlichenko, who recorded 309 confirmed kills, it became a precision instrument of terror. The deadliest female sniper in history used this rifle. M1 Garand. The first semi-automatic rifle adopted as standard issue by any major army. General Patton called it the greatest battle implement ever devised. While enemies worked bolt actions between shots, American troops put 8 rounds downrange as fast as they could pull the trigger. That firepower advantage was decisive in every theater. MP-40, German submachine gun issued to paratroopers and squad leaders. Firing 9mm at 500 rounds per minute, it was devastating in close quarters. Despite propaganda showing every German carrying one, most Wehrmacht infantry still used bolt-action rifles. The MP-40 was rarer than its reputation suggests and deadlier than most realize. PPSH-41, Soviet submachine gun built for the brutal reality of the Eastern Front. Its 71-round drum magazine and 900 rounds per minute fire rate turned Soviet squads into walls of lead. During Stalingrad, it cleared rooms, basements, sewers, and factory floors, one burst at a time. German soldiers who captured them used them in preference to their own weapons. STG-44, the world's first true assault rifle. The STG-44 changed small arms forever. It offered controllable automatic fire at ranges far beyond any submachine gun while being lighter than a battle rifle. Hitler initially opposed it. When frontline soldiers begged for more, he relented. Every modern assault rifle traces its lineage directly back to this weapon. MG-42, German general-purpose machine gun, widely considered the best machine gun of the war. It fired at 200 rounds per minute, so fast the human ear couldn't distinguish individual shots. Allied soldiers called it Hitler's buzzsaw. The US Army produced training films specifically to help soldiers manage the sheer terror of being under MG-42 fire. Its descendant, the MG-3, served with NATO into the 21st century. M2 Browning, 50 caliber American heavy machine gun used across every branch and platform. The Ma-Deuce could destroy vehicles, shred aircraft, and cut through buildings at ranges exceeding a mile. It is still in frontline service today, over 100 years after its original design. No other weapon in history has remained in continuous military use for that long. Panzerfaust, German single-use anti-tank weapon for individual soldiers. Its range was absurdly short, sometimes 30 meters, but its warhead could penetrate over 200 millimeters of armor, killing any Allied tank. In Berlin's final days, Panzerfausts were handed to old men and teenage boys. They destroyed hundreds of Soviet tanks in the streets. Katyusha rocket launcher, BM-13, Soviet multiple rocket launcher capable of area saturation bombardment. It fired 16 rockets in 7 to 10 seconds, covering an area the size of several football fields with high explosive fragmentation. The screaming sound of incoming rockets was so devastating that German soldiers named them Stalin's organs. They weren't designed for precision, they were designed for terror. 8.8 cm Flak 3637. The 88 German anti-aircraft gun repurposed as the most feared anti-tank weapon of the war. Its high-velocity round could destroy any Allied tank at ranges where the tank couldn't shoot back. The 88 became so feared that Allied tankers reported seeing them everywhere, even when being fired on by completely different weapons. The name became synonymous with death itself. M4 Sherman Tank Primary American Medium Tank. It wasn't the best tank by any metric. Thinner armor, weaker gun, too tall. Its gasoline engine earned it the nickname Ronson, lights every time. But America built 50,000 of them. For every Sherman the Germans destroyed, 5 more were coming. It won the war through sheer numbers. T-34 Medium Tank, Soviet Medium Tank, the most produced tank of the war. When it first appeared in 1941, it triggered a crisis in the German military. Sloped armor, superior gun, wide tracks for mud and snow. The Germans were so alarmed, they fast-tracked the Panther specifically to counter it. Over 84,000 were built. Quantity has a quality all its own. Tiger I German heavy tank built for battlefield dominance. Its 80mm gun and thick frontal armor made it nearly invincible in one-on-one engagements. At Villers-Bocage, a single Tiger destroyed 14 tanks and 15 vehicles in 15 minutes, but only 1,247 were ever built. The Allies didn't need to outfight the Tiger, they just needed to outnumber it. P-51 Mustang American long-range escort fighter that broke the Luftwaffe. Before the Mustang, bombers flying deep into Germany suffered catastrophic losses. The P-51 could escort them all the way to Berlin and back. It forced German fighters to engage, and in those engagements, the Luftwaffe bled irreplaceable pilots. By D-Day, Eisenhower told his troops, "If you see a plane, it's ours." The Mitsubishi A6M0 Japanese carrier fighter that dominated the early Pacific War. Its extraordinary agility made it nearly untouchable in a dogfight, but it achieved its performance through ruthless weight savings. No armor, no self-sealing fuel tanks. A few hits turned it into a fireball. As American tactics adapted, the Zero's advantages vanished. Its irreplaceable pilots died in droves. Ilyushin Il-2 Sturmovik Soviet armored ground attack aircraft, the most produced military aircraft in history. Over 36,000 built. Stalin declared it as essential as air and bread. German soldiers called it the Black Death. Approximately 10,000 were destroyed during the war. The Soviets simply built more. Sheer industrial will made flesh and steel and fire. Junkers Ju-87, Stuka German dive bomber and symbol of the Blitzkrieg. Its Jericho trumpet siren produced a screaming wail during dives, a psychological weapon by design. Hans-Ulrich Rudel, flying Stukas, destroyed 519 tanks, a battleship, and over 800 vehicles. But against modern fighters, the Stuka was a death trap. Terror only works when you own the sky. Boeing B-17, Flying Fortress American 4-engine heavy bomber, carrying the daylight bombing campaign into Germany. On the second Schweinfurt raid, 77 out of 291 B-17s were shot down, a 26% loss rate in a single mission. Despite the carnage, B-17s dropped 640,000 tons of bombs on European targets. Each mission was a death sentence for someone. The crews flew anyway. U-boats, German submarines waging unrestricted warfare against Allied shipping. Churchill wrote, "The only thing that ever really frightened me during the war was the U-boat peril." U-boats sank 3,500 merchant ships and 175 warships, killing over 70,000 Allied sailors, but 75% of U-boat crews were killed, the highest casualty rate of any branch of any military in the war. Aircraft carriers, the warships that replaced battleships as the dominant force in naval warfare. Pearl Harbor, Midway, the Philippine Sea, every decisive Pacific battle was won by carrier aircraft. The USS Enterprise participated in more major actions than any other ship. Japan reported sinking it 3 times. Each time, it returned. Carriers didn't just change naval warfare, they ended the battleship era overnight. The V-2 rocket, the world's first ballistic missile, traveling faster than the speed of sound. There was no warning, no siren, no defense. You simply ceased to exist. Over 3,000 were launched, killing approximately 9,000 people, but 12,000 concentration camp prisoners died building them. More people were killed manufacturing the V-2 than were killed by it. Its designer later built the rocket that carried Americans to the moon. Napalm and incendiary weapons, burning gel weapons deployed by aircraft against cities, fortifications, and personnel. Napalm burned at over 1,500 degrees, clung to everything it touched, and could not be extinguished with water. Developed at Harvard University in 1942, it became the primary weapon of the B-29 firebombing campaign against Japan. It burned entire city blocks to the ground in minutes. The moral debate over its use has never ended. Strategic firebombing, the systematic destruction of entire cities using conventional and incendiary munitions. The firebombing of Tokyo on March 10, 1945, killed approximately 100,000 people in a single night, more than either atomic bomb individually. Combined, Allied strategic bombing killed over 1 million civilians in Germany and Japan. It was industrialized destruction on a scale that had never existed before, carried out with conventional weapons. The atomic bomb, nuclear fission weapons, the most destructive devices ever used in combat. At 8:15 a.m. on August 6, 1945, a single bomb exploded over Hiroshima. In the first second, the ground below reached 7,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything within a mile was vaporized. Approximately 140,000 people were dead by the end of the year. 3 days later, Nagasaki. Another 70,000. 2 weapons. 2 moments. 200,000 lives. They ended the deadliest war in human history, and they opened a new era, one in which humanity possessed the power to destroy itself entirely. From a commando's knife to a device that could flatten a city in a single blinding flash, these 30 weapons defined the most destructive conflict the world has ever known. Some were carried by millions of ordinary men on the worst days of their lives. Others reshaped civilization itself. The war killed an estimated 70 to 85 million people. Behind every number was a weapon. Behind every weapon was a decision. And behind every decision was a world that would never be the same.